Jamal Williams stood outside Luxury Motors, looking at the shiny cars through the big glass windows. He was 17 years old and had saved every dollar from his part-time job. For 3 long years, his heart beat fast with excitement. Today was finally the day he would buy his first car. The dealership sold both new luxury cars and cheaper used cars. Jamal had exactly $20,000 in his bank account. Not enough for a new car, but perfect for one of their certified used cars. He had spent months researching online, reading reviews, and comparing prices. He knew exactly what he wanted. Jamal checked his simple outfit, clean jeans, and a plain t-shirt. He took a deep breath and pushed open the heavy glass doors. Cool air hit his face as he stepped into the bright showroom. Inside, men and women in fancy suits walked around helping customers. Jamal noticed something right away. The salespeople smiled and rushed to greet other people who came in, but nobody seemed to see him. He stood near the entrance, waiting for someone to help him. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Jamal frowned. Was he invisible? He decided to approach a salesman named Mark who was typing on a computer at a desk. "Excuse me, sir," Jamal said politely. "I'm interested in looking at some of your used cars." Mark looked up from his computer. His eyes moved slowly over Jamal's clothes. His friendly smile faded. "The cars here start at $50,000, kid," Mark said in a bored voice. "Maybe try the cheap car lot down the street." He turned back to his computer without waiting for an answer. Jamal felt his face get hot with embarrassment. A couple nearby looked at him with pity, but Jamal had not saved for 3 years to be dismissed so easily. "Actually, sir," Jamal said, keeping his voice steady, "I have $20,000 saved up. I saw on your website you have some certified used models in that price range." Mark sighed loudly like Jamal was wasting his time. "Look, I don't have time for games. These cars aren't toys. Why don't you come back with your parents if you're serious?" More people were watching now. Jamal felt like everyone in the showroom was staring at him, but he stood tall. "I am serious," Jamal said quietly. "I've done my research. I know exactly what I can afford and what cars fit my budget." Another salesman named Robert walked over. He had a smirk on his face. "Mark, everything okay here?" he asked, looking at Jamal like he was something unwanted. "Just explaining to this young man that he might be in the wrong place," Mark replied. Robert laughed. "Kid, this isn't a place to hang out. These are expensive cars for people who can actually afford them." Both men stared at Jamal, clearly waiting for him to leave. Jamal felt his throat get tight. He had been saving every penny, working weekends and after school, missing parties and new clothes, all for this moment. And these men were treating him like he was nothing. Some customers looked away, uncomfortable. Others watched with the same dismissive look as the salesman. Jamal thought about walking out, but something deep inside wouldn't let him. "I'd like to speak to your manager, please," Jamal said, surprised by how strong his voice sounded. The salesmen looked at each other, annoyed. "Sure, kid," Robert said. "Wait here." As he walked away, he whispered something to Mark that made both men laugh. While waiting, Jamal pulled out his phone and opened the dealership's website. He had saved pictures of 3 different cars that were in his price range. He tried to focus on the screen instead of the people watching him. 10 minutes later, a tall man in an expensive gray suit walked toward him. The man's face already looked annoyed before he even spoke. "I'm David Cooper, the sales manager," the man said. "I understand there's some kind of problem here." Jamal took another deep breath. He wasn't going to let them win. "No problem, sir," Jamal replied with respect. "I'm interested in buying a used car. I have $20,000 saved, and I've already been approved for a loan if I need it." David Cooper raised his eyebrows. He looked Jamal up and down with doubt in his eyes. "Pre-approved? At your age? And where exactly did you get $20,000? "I've been working part-time since I was 14, sir. I save most of what I earn," Jamal explained. and the loan approval is through my credit union's first-time buyer program. David crossed his arms across his chest. Listen, young man, we run a serious business here. We don't have time for games or tire kickers. If you're really interested, come back with a parent. Jamal felt his hopes slipping away. He had done everything right. He had saved, researched, and prepared. But none of that seemed to matter to these men who had already decided he didn't belong here. Sir, with all due respect, I don't need my parents to help me buy a car. I've saved this money myself. I know what I can afford. I just want the same chance as any other customer, Jamal said. Mark and Robert stood nearby, smirking. A few other salespeople had gathered to watch the show. Some customers looked uncomfortable. Others pretended not to notice. Look, kid, David said with a sigh. Even if you do have the money, which I doubt, these cars require maintenance, insurance, and responsibility. This isn't a place for joyriding teenagers. We deal with serious adult customers. Jamal felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. I've calculated the insurance costs already. I have a clean driving record from my permit years. I've researched maintenance costs for each model I'm interested in. I'm not here to waste anyone's time. David shook his head. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Come back when you're older or with your parents. Just then, the main doors to the dealership opened. A tall, well-dressed man walked in. He wore a perfectly fitted dark blue suit that probably cost more than some of the used cars. He had the confident walk of someone important. The man paused at the entrance, looking around the showroom. When his eyes found Jamal, he looked surprised. Then his face changed as he took in the scene. The sales manager and salesman surrounding Jamal, the watching customers, and his son's upset expression. The salespeople's faces changed instantly as they recognized the man. The sales manager's face turned pale. The smirks disappeared from Mark and Robert's faces. Michael Williams, CEO of Williams Global Investments and one of the dealership's biggest investors, was walking straight toward them. And he did not look happy. Dad? Jamal said in surprise. What are you doing here? The salesman looked back and forth between Jamal and Michael, their mouths hanging open. Michael put his hand on his son's shoulder. I had a meeting nearby and thought I'd stop by to talk with Mr. Cooper about our investment, Michael said calmly. Then he turned to the now nervous sales manager. But I'm more interested in why my son looks upset. The three salesmen stood frozen. The showroom went completely silent. Jamal, is everything okay? Michael asked, his eyes still on the sales team. Jamal hesitated. He hadn't expected to see his father here. He hadn't told his parents he was buying a car today. He wanted to surprise them after. He also didn't want to cause trouble. I was just looking at cars, Dad, Jamal said finally. I saved up for one, but they think I'm wasting their time. Michael's face hardened as he turned to face the sales team. Is that so? My son has been working and saving for 3 years for this moment. He researched your inventory, got approved for financing, and came here ready to make a purchase. And this is how you treat a serious customer. David Cooper was sweating now. His confident attitude had disappeared completely. Mr. Williams, we had no idea he was your son. And that matters. Why, exactly? Michael interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. Would you have treated him differently if you knew who his father was? Is that how you decide who deserves respect in your business? Michael continued, his voice calm but firm. The showroom was completely silent. Even other customers had stopped to watch the scene unfold. David Cooper tried to find words. Mr. Williams, we have certain protocols for young customers. Protocols? Michael raised an eyebrow. Do these protocols include ignoring customers for 15 minutes, or suggesting they go to the cheap lot down the street without even asking about their budget, or laughing at them behind their back? Mark and Robert looked at the floor, unable to meet Michael's gaze. Jamal, Michael said, turning to his son, did they even ask what car you were interested in? Jamal shook his head. No, Dad. They just assumed I couldn't afford anything here. Michael nodded slowly. I see. And did they ask how much money you had saved, or if you were pre-approved for financing? Only after I told them, Jamal replied. And even then, they didn't believe me. Michael turned back to the sales team. My son is one of the most responsible young men I know. That's why, despite our family's resources, I insisted he earn his first car himself. He's worked part-time for 3 years, saved his money, researched his options, and prepared for this purchase. He did everything right. Michael's voice grew harder. But none of that mattered because of how he looks, did it? The 3 men had no answer. A few customers nodded in agreement with Michael's words. What Jamal experienced today is exactly why I wanted him to do this on his own, Michael continued. I wanted him to understand the value of hard work and independence. What I didn't expect was for him to face discrimination at a business I invest in. David Cooper's face went from pale to red. Mr. Williams, I assure you, this isn't about discrimination. Then what is it about? Michael challenged. Please explain to me why my son was treated this way, while other customers were greeted with smiles and respect. Again, no one answered. Jamal, Michael said, turning to his son again, do you still want to buy a car from this dealership? Jamal thought for a moment. He was angry about how he had been treated, but he had his heart set on one of their certified used cars, and walking away now felt like letting them win. Yes, Jamal decided, if they have what I've been saving for. But I want to work with someone who respects me as a customer, regardless of how I look or how old I am. Michael nodded proudly. Fair enough. He turned back to the sales manager. Mr. Cooper, I expect my son to receive the professional service any customer deserves. After that, you and I will have a longer conversation about the culture of this dealership and whether it fits with my investment philosophy. The atmosphere changed immediately. A woman named Sarah, who had been watching everything from across the showroom, stepped forward. I'd be happy to help Jamal find the right car, Mr. Williams, she said with a genuine smile. Michael nodded. Thank you. And please treat him as you would any other customer with $20,000 to spend. Of course, Sarah replied. She turned to Jamal. What models were you interested in seeing today? As Sarah began showing Jamal the vehicles in his price range, treating him with genuine respect and interest, Michael pulled the management team aside. Their conversation was quiet but intense. Other salespeople watched nervously. Mark and Robert disappeared into a back office. The owner of the dealership was called on the phone. Meanwhile, Jamal was finally getting the car-buying experience he deserved. Sarah listened to his questions and answered honestly. She showed him the certified used models he had researched online. She explained the features without talking down to him. For the first time since entering the dealership, Jamal felt like a valued customer. But he couldn't help wondering if it was only because of who his father was. Sarah showed Jamal 3 cars that matched his budget: a blue sedan, a silver compact, and a red hatchback. All were certified used cars with low miles and good safety ratings. All 3 were cars Jamal had researched online. These are all within your price range, Sarah explained. Each has passed our 150-point inspection and comes with a 1-year warranty. Jamal walked around each car, looking at them carefully. He asked smart questions about gas mileage, maintenance costs, and safety features. Sarah answered each question honestly without talking down to him. Can I test drive the blue sedan? Jamal asked. Of course, Sarah replied. Let me get the keys and a license plate. I'll need to see your driver's license. Jamal handed over his license. Sarah didn't question it or look surprised that he had one, unlike the other salespeople who had assumed he couldn't drive. While Sarah went to get the keys, Jamal glanced across the showroom. His father was still talking with the dealership owner, who had arrived 10 minutes earlier. The owner looked worried. Mark and Robert were nowhere to be seen. Sarah returned with the keys, ready to go. The test drive went well. The car drove smoothly and had all the features Jamal wanted. When they returned to the dealership, Jamal had made his decision. "I'd like to buy the blue sedan," he told Sarah. "Excellent choice," she said with a genuine smile. "Let's go to my office and work out the details." In Sarah's office, Jamal reviewed the paperwork carefully. The price was fair, matching what he had seen online. There were no hidden fees or unnecessary add-ons. Sarah explained each document clearly. "You've done your homework," Sarah commented as Jamal asked a detailed question about the warranty. "Most customers don't research this thoroughly." Jamal nodded. "I wanted to make sure I was making a smart decision with my money." "Your money?" Sarah asked. "Not your father's." "No," Jamal said firmly. "I saved for this car myself. My parents could have bought me any car I wanted, but my dad believed I should earn my first car on my own." Sarah looked impressed. "That explains why you know so much about these vehicles. Most teenagers who come in with their parents haven't done any research." Jamal signed the final papers and handed over his bank card for the down payment. The rest would be covered by his pre-approved loan. He felt proud knowing he had done this on his own. When all the paperwork was complete, Sarah handed Jamal the keys to his new car. "Congratulations on your first car purchase," she said. Not many 17-year-olds could handle this process so professionally. Jamal took the keys, feeling a rush of excitement. "Thank you for treating me like a real customer." Sarah looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry about how you were treated earlier. Not everyone here is like that." "I know," Jamal said, "but it happens more often than you might think." Sarah nodded. "I believe you, and I'm glad your father was here to see it. Maybe things will change now." Jamal walked back to the showroom where his father was waiting. Michael smiled when he saw the keys in Jamal's hand. "You got your car?" Michael asked. Jamal nodded, feeling proud. "The blue sedan." Everything checked out, and the price was fair. "And how was Sarah? Did she treat you with respect?" Michael asked. "She was great, Dad. She answered all my questions and didn't try to pressure me or talk down to me. She treated me like any other customer." Michael nodded, satisfied. "That's how it should be." He put his hand on Jamal's shoulder. "I'm proud of you, son. You worked hard for this moment. You earned this car with your own money and your own effort." Jamal felt a mix of emotions. He was happy about his new car, proud that he had saved for it himself. But he was also upset about how he had been treated before his father arrived. "Dad," Jamal said quietly, "if you hadn't come in, I don't think they would have sold me a car today." Michael's face turned serious. "I know. And that's exactly why we need to talk." Michael suggested they talk in Jamal's new car. Once inside, with the doors closed, they had privacy from the curious eyes in the dealership. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," Michael said, "but I'm also proud of how you handled it." Jamal gripped the steering wheel of his new car. "I almost left, Dad. After the way they treated me, I almost walked out." "But you didn't," Michael pointed out. "You stood your ground. You asked for the manager. You didn't let them dismiss you." "It still didn't work until you showed up," Jamal said quietly. "The manager was about to kick me out when you walked in." Michael nodded slowly. "And that's the reality we need to talk about." He turned in his seat to face his son directly. "Jamal, what you experienced today is something I've dealt with my whole life, even after becoming successful." "Really? Even you?" Jamal looked surprised. His father was always treated with respect everywhere they went. "Yes, even me. The difference is that now people recognize me, or they see the expensive suit and the luxury car first. But if I walk into a store in casual clothes, I still get followed by security. I still get ignored by sales staff. I still get asked if I can afford what I'm looking at." Jamal had never heard his father talk like this before. "Why haven't you told me this?" Michael sighed. "Your mother and I wanted to protect you from this reality for as long as possible. We wanted you to grow up confident, believing you could be anything and go anywhere. But we always knew this day would come. The day I'd be judged by how I look instead of who I am," Jamal said. "Exactly," Michael put his hand on Jamal's shoulder. That's why I insisted you earn this car yourself. Not because we couldn't afford to buy you one, but because I wanted you to know your own value. To understand that whatever anyone else thinks of you, you are capable. You are worthy. You earned this. Jamal felt a lump in his throat. But Dad, if you hadn't walked in when you did, then you would have gone to another dealership, Michael said firmly. And another after that if needed. Until you found someone who would treat you with respect. Because you deserve that respect, whether I'm there or not. It's not fair, Jamal said. No, it's not, Michael agreed. But here's what you need to understand, son. Their behavior says nothing about your worth and everything about their character. Never let anyone make you feel less than who you are. Jamal nodded slowly, taking in his father's words. There's something else I want you to understand, Michael continued. The power to change things. What do you mean? Because of what happened today, this dealership will change how they treat customers. Not just you, but everyone who walks through those doors. Because you're an investor, Jamal said. Yes, Michael admitted. I have leverage here that most people don't. But you have power too, Jamal. The power of your voice, your choices, and someday, your position. My position. Son, you're smart, hardworking, and determined. Someday, you'll be in a position to make changes too. To create spaces where people are treated with dignity regardless of how they look or how old they are. That's how we make progress. One person, one business, one community at a time. Jamal thought about this. He had never considered that he might have the power to change things someday. What are you going to do about the dealership? Jamal asked. Well, for starters, Mark and Robert won't be working here anymore, Michael said. The owner and I had a very direct conversation about the kind of business he's running. There will be new training for all staff, new policies about how customers are greeted and treated. Because of what happened to me. Because of what you did, Jamal. You stood up for yourself. You demanded respect. You created an opportunity for change. For the first time since entering the dealership, Jamal smiled. He had come here today to buy a car. He hadn't expected to learn such an important lesson about dignity, respect, and the power to make a difference. Jamal started his new car and felt the engine come to life. The smooth hum made him smile. This was his car, bought with his own money, earned through his own hard work. I'm going to drive it home, Jamal said. Will you follow me in your car? Michael nodded. Of course. Your mother is going to be so surprised. She thinks you're still months away from having enough saved. I worked extra shifts, Jamal explained. And I sold my old gaming system. I wanted to get the car before college visits start next month. Smart thinking, Michael said, pride clear in his voice. I'll meet you back at the house. As they were about to leave, David Cooper, the sales manager, approached Jamal's window. His face looked very different now, humble and sorry. Mr. Williams, he said, looking at Jamal, not Michael. I wanted to apologize for how you were treated today. It was unprofessional and wrong. Jamal looked at the man who had tried to throw him out just an hour ago. He could see the manager was only apologizing because he had to, not because he truly understood what he did wrong. Thank you for the apology, Jamal said simply. He didn't smile or try to make the manager feel better. David Cooper needed to sit with his discomfort. David nodded and stepped back. Jamal put the car in drive and pulled out of the dealership, his father following in his luxury sedan. On the drive home, Jamal thought about everything that had happened. The excitement of finally buying his car had been spoiled by the treatment he received. But his father's words had given him a new perspective. This wasn't just about a car anymore. It was about dignity, respect, and making change happen. When Jamal pulled into the driveway of their large suburban home, his mother, Lisa Williams, came out onto the porch. Her eyes went wide when she saw Jamal in a new car. What is this? She called out, walking toward the driveway with a big smile. Jamal Williams, did you buy a car without telling me? Jamal got out, grinning. Surprise. Mom, I had enough saved. What do you think? Lisa walked around the blue sedan, nodding with approval. It's perfect. Practical, good safety ratings, and a nice color too. I'm impressed, son. She hugged him tight. I'm so proud of you. Michael joined them in the driveway. He handled the whole process like a pro. Lisa researched everything, asked all the right questions, got a fair price. Lisa beamed at her son. I'm not surprised. He's always been smart about money. Then she noticed something in her husband's eyes. What happened? There's something you're not telling me. Michael and Jamal exchanged a look. We had a situation at the dealership, Michael said carefully. What kind of situation? Lisa's smile faded. Jamal sighed. They didn't want to sell me a car, Mom. They ignored me, then told me to go somewhere else, then tried to make me leave. Lisa's face hardened. As a successful lawyer who had fought discrimination cases, she understood immediately. Until they realized who your father was, I'm guessing. Exactly, Michael confirmed. It was the usual story. Judged him by his appearance, not by his character or his wallet. Lisa put her arm around Jamal. I'm sorry, sweetheart. That should never have happened. Dad already handled it, Jamal said. There are going to be some changes at that dealership. Good, Lisa said firmly. But are you okay? Really okay? Jamal thought for a moment. I'm angry it happened. But I'm also, I don't know, stronger. Dad and I talked about it. About how their behavior doesn't define my worth. About how someday I'll be in a position to make changes too. Lisa looked at her husband with gratitude in her eyes. They had always known this day would come. The day their son would face the ugly reality of discrimination. They had tried to prepare him as best they could. So, Jamal said, changing the subject, who wants to go for a ride in my new car? Both parents smiled, grateful for their son's resilience. Whatever challenges he would face in life, they knew he had the strength to overcome them. I call shotgun, Michael said. No way, Lisa protested. Mother's privilege. You can sit in the back, CEO. For the first time that day, Jamal laughed freely. Despite everything, this was still one of the best days of his life. 2 weeks passed. Jamal loved his new car. He drove it to school, to his part-time job, and on college visits with his parents. Every time he got behind the wheel, he felt a sense of pride. He had earned this. On Friday afternoon, Jamal received an email from Michael. The subject line read, Meeting at Luxury Motors, 4 p.m. today. Jamal was surprised. He hadn't expected to go back to that dealership ever again. He texted his father. Why are we meeting at the dealership? Michael replied quickly. I want you to see something. Trust me. At 4 p.m., Jamal pulled into the parking lot of Luxury Motors. His father's car was already there. Jamal felt a knot in his stomach as he remembered his last visit. The humiliation, the anger, the disappointment. He walked through the glass doors, half expecting to be ignored again. Instead, a young woman at the front desk greeted him immediately. Good afternoon. Welcome to Luxury Motors. How can I help you today? Jamal was taken aback by the warm welcome. I'm meeting my father, Michael Williams. The woman smiled. Of course, Mr. Williams is waiting in the conference room. Right this way, please. She led Jamal through the showroom. He noticed several changes. There were more diverse salespeople on the floor. A new sign near the entrance read, At Luxury Motors, we believe every customer deserves respect, attention, and excellent service. The conference room door was open. Inside, Jamal saw his father sitting with the dealership owner, Tom Harris, and a woman Jamal didn't recognize. Jamal. Michael stood up. Thank you for coming. I want you to meet some people. Jamal shook hands with Tom Harris. The owner looked Jamal in the eye, his handshake firm. Jamal, I want to personally apologize for your experience here, Tom said. It was unacceptable and not what this business stands for. Jamal nodded, surprised by the sincerity in the man's voice. This apology felt different from the sales manager's forced words. "And this," Michael continued, "is Angela Carter. She's the new director of customer experience." The woman stepped forward. She was black, professionally dressed, with a confident smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Jamal," Angela said. "Your experience has led to some important changes here." "What kind of changes?" Jamal asked. Angela explained. "We've implemented new training for all staff. Everyone learns about unconscious bias and how to provide the same level of service to all customers. We've changed our hiring practices to build a more diverse team, and we've created a system to measure customer satisfaction across all demographics." Tom Harris added, "We've also terminated the employment of those who were directly involved in discriminating against you." Jamal looked at his father, surprised by the extent of the changes. "Your father didn't just demand action," Tom explained. "He offered to help us become better. Instead of pulling his investment, he increased it with the condition that we implement these changes." Michael smiled at his son. "I told you that you have the power to create change. This is what I meant." Angela handed Jamal a folder. "We'd like to offer you an opportunity, Jamal. We need someone to help us evaluate our progress. A secret shopper program with young people of different backgrounds who will visit and report on their experience." Jamal raised his eyebrows. "You want me to work with you?" "Not just work with us," Angela clarified. "We want you to help lead this initiative. Your insight would be invaluable. It's a paid position, part-time, so it won't interfere with school. You can build a team of your friends and classmates." Jamal looked at the folder, then at his father, who nodded encouragingly. "This is your choice, son," Michael said. "You can walk away and never come back here. That's your right. Or you can help make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to others." Jamal thought about his father's words from 2 weeks ago, about having the power to make changes, about creating spaces where people are treated with dignity. "I'll do it," Jamal decided. "But I have some ideas of my own about how to make this better." Angela smiled. "We were hoping you would say that." 3 months later, Jamal sat in the Luxury Motors conference room with Angela Carter. On the table between them were dozens of customer feedback forms and 6 detailed reports from Jamal's secret shopper team. "The results are clear," Angela said, reviewing the data. "Customer satisfaction is up across all demographics. Every secret shopper was greeted within 1 minute of entering the showroom. No one reported feeling ignored or disrespected." Jamal nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. His team of 10 classmates from different backgrounds had visited the dealership at various times over the past 3 months. Each had pretended to be interested in buying a car. Each had reported back on their experience. "Your training program is working," Jamal observed. "The videos you created about unconscious bias made a big difference." "Your idea to include real customer stories in the training was brilliant," Angela replied. "When people hear actual experiences, they connect with the issue on a deeper level." Jamal had insisted that the training include recordings of real customers sharing how it felt to be discriminated against. He had even shared his own story, though it had been difficult to relive that day. "So what happens next?" Jamal asked. Angela smiled. "Tom wants to roll this program out to all 5 of his dealerships. He wants you to help train the new secret shoppers." Jamal raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Really? That's a much bigger project." "You've proven yourself, Jamal. This isn't just about your father's influence anymore. You've shown real leadership skills." Jamal felt a surge of pride. When he had first accepted this position, he'd wondered if it was just for show, a way for the dealership to look good after what happened. But the owner and Angela had taken his ideas seriously. They had made real changes. "There's something else," Angela continued. "Tom has been talking with other dealership owners in the area. They're interested in implementing similar programs. There's potential to create industry-wide change." Jamal sat back, taking in this information. What had started as a humiliating experience was now creating waves across the industry. He thought about other young people like him who might walk into these dealerships in the future. They would be treated with respect from the moment they entered. They wouldn't have to prove they belonged there. I'd like to help, Jamal decided. But I'm starting college in the fall. I'll have less time. We can work around your schedule, Angela assured him. Maybe you could develop training materials over the summer, and we could set up the program so you can oversee it remotely during the school year. As they discussed the details, Jamal's phone buzzed with a text from his father. "How's the meeting going?" Jamal quickly replied, "Great, tell you about it at dinner." Later that evening, Jamal sat with his parents at their dining room table. He told them about the meeting and the proposal to expand the program. "I'm not surprised they want to keep working with you," Lisa said proudly. "You've turned this into something meaningful." Michael nodded in agreement. "You took a negative experience and created positive change. That's real leadership. I couldn't have done it without your support," Jamal said. "Or your influence," he added, looking at his father. "My influence opened the door," Michael acknowledged. "But you're the one who walked through it and made something happen. Don't discount that." "There's something else," Jamal said. "I've been thinking about my college major." His parents looked at him expectantly. Jamal had been planning to study engineering. "I'm thinking about business ethics and corporate social responsibility instead. I want to help companies create more inclusive environments, not just for customers, but for employees too." Michael and Lisa exchanged a glance, both seeing how this experience had shaped their son's future. "If that's your passion, we support you completely," Lisa said. Jamal smiled. "It is. I want to help create spaces where everyone is treated with dignity, where no one has to prove they belong." Michael reached across the table and squeezed his son's hand. "You're already doing that, Jamal, and I couldn't be prouder." 5 years later, Jamal Williams stood in front of a crowded conference room. At 22, he was now a college graduate with a degree in business ethics and a minor in sociology. Today, he was the keynote speaker at the National Automotive Dealers Association annual conference. 5 years ago, I walked into a car dealership to buy my first car," Jamal began. "I had saved for 3 years. I had researched models, prices, and financing options. I was prepared." The room was silent as Jamal shared his story. He described how he had been ignored, dismissed, and nearly thrown out. He explained how everything changed when his father, the CEO of a major investment firm, walked in. "That day taught me something important," Jamal continued. "It showed me that discrimination still exists in our businesses, but it also showed me that change is possible when people in positions of power choose to use that power for good." In the front row, Michael and Lisa Williams watched their son with pride. Next to them sat Tom Harris and Angela Carter from Luxury Motors, now known throughout the industry for their exemplary customer service practices. What began as one dealership's failure became an opportunity for industry-wide improvement, Jamal said. "The Secret Shopper program we developed has now been implemented in over 200 dealerships across the country. Customer satisfaction scores have improved by an average of 30%. Jamal clicked to the next slide in his presentation. It showed a graph of improved customer satisfaction ratings across different demographics. "These numbers represent real people having better experiences," Jamal explained. "People being treated with dignity and respect from the moment they walk through the door, regardless of their age, appearance, or background." After graduating college, Jamal had started his own consulting firm with his father's support. The company specialized in helping businesses create more inclusive environments for both customers and employees. What had begun with car dealerships had expanded to retail stores, banks, and restaurants. "The most common question I get is why this matters to the bottom line," Jamal continued. "The data is clear. Inclusive businesses are more profitable businesses. When you treat every customer with respect, you gain more customers. When you build diverse teams, you make better decisions." Jamal glanced at his parents, drawing strength from their presence. "But beyond the profit motive, there's something more important at stake. It's about the kind of society we want to live in." Do we want a world where people are judged by superficial factors or by their character and actions? The audience nodded in agreement. Among them were dealership owners, managers, and car company executives who had once been skeptical of Jamal's program, but were now its biggest supporters. 5 years ago, I almost walked out of that dealership. I almost gave up. But instead, I stood my ground. And that decision changed not just my life, but the lives of countless others who will never know my name but will benefit from the changes we've created together. As Jamal concluded his speech, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Michael was the first on his feet, his eyes shining with tears of pride. After the applause died down, Jamal answered questions from the audience. Then, as people began to network and mingle, he joined his parents. "That was amazing, son," Lisa said, hugging him tight. "You've accomplished more in 5 years than many do in a lifetime," Michael added. Jamal smiled. "I had good teachers." As they prepared to leave, a young man approached them. He looked about 17, the same age Jamal had been that day at the dealership. "Mr. Williams," the young man said, "I just wanted to thank you. I bought my first car last month. The salesperson treated me with respect the whole time. They told me about your program and how it changed their training." Jamal shook the young man's hand, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. This was why he did what he did. Not for recognition or success, but for moments like this. For young people who would never have to feel the way he felt that day. "What kind of car did you get?" Jamal asked with a smile. "A blue sedan," the young man replied. "Just like your first car." Jamal laughed. Some things came full circle in the most unexpected ways.